Blog Talk Radio.
Hello out there in Blog Talk Radio land. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Off the Shelf. And you are absolutely right. You are listening to the Winning Books radio show, Off the Shelf, and want to welcome you here and wish you in advance. It seemed like our show is coming on a day before or right before a holiday, so I want to stop and say Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And if you're single, you can just love yourself on Valentine's Day, and hopefully you do that every day anyway. So happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there from Off the Shelf. Now, this is a quote I want to drop into your mind before we go into today's show and bring this awesome author in front of you. So the quote today is from Les Brown, and it is, "Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears," especially when unexpected, just unwanted events like the death of a loved one occur. It can really put the brakes on us, or a personal injury or sickness or illness. Man, you can want to throw in that towel. It is really hard not to. So, again, I want to leave that with you. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. And who wants to put energy in the fear? So I encourage you to stop doing that. And if you just joined Off the Shelf, if it's your first time, or if you're one of our loyal listeners who's been with us for more than 13 years, I was just telling our guests that I just stumbled into this. This wasn't something that I had planned, and I definitely didn't think I'd be doing it for 13 years. But I want to thank you for being here with us, and I also want to tell you there is still time for you to go tell your friends. This show today is not just for people who love to read books, but people who love their life and want to live a good life. We all are only here for a while, and we don't know exactly how long, but you want to make the best of the experiences that you have while you're here. You could bless countless people while you're here. There's still time to tell somebody to tune in to Off the Shelf, and the dial-in number is 347-994-3490. Again, it's as simple, 347-994-3490, or you can join us in the chat room. So I encourage you to go tell folks that you care about. Tune in to Off the Shelf this morning. And now, next to our listeners, I want to know how much you love mystery. Some people like romance, we know, is the number one seller. Some people, romance is their thing, but I don't know too many people who, even in a romance novel, isn't there some mystery? We love mystery. This world is full of mystery, unanswered questions. So if you value mystery and you really appreciate how we influence and help each other along on our journey. We can't get there alone. People pop in and out of our lives. If you appreciate that, starting when somebody is a child, how the parent shapes the child, maybe help get them on their path or take them off even, and then they have to struggle to find their right path, maybe with people they meet later in their life. If you value these things that happen to each and every single one of us, I think you should go out and get a copy of Love Pour Over Me. And it's on Amazon. It's an ebook and print format. At Amazon, I think it's $3.03 for ebook. Ebook and print. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Walmart. You can get it at ebookit.com or at chistel.com through PayPal at CHISTELL.com. If you value these things, love and mystery and how we impact each other, I really think you should get a copy of Love Pour Over Me today. It is by me, Denise Turney. And I don't say that because I wrote it. I really think that if you value those things, that you should get a copy of Love Pour Over Me. And now let us go and meet our very special off-the-shelf guest. And our special guest this morning is Adrienne Manson. She has the same first name as somebody I love, and that's my sister. Except my sister spells hers with an A instead of an E. But Adrienne is a survivor, you guys. Adrienne Manson is a true survivor. She survived a ruptured brain aneurysm. And following the aneurysm, she enrolled in school at Columbia College, where she earned a Bachelor of Arts degree. I didn't even think of this when I was looking for the quote for the week from Les Brown, which I'll repeat. Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears or living somebody else's dreams, I would add. This is not what Adrienne chose to do. And after she earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from Columbia College, she went on to earn a Master of Arts in Education and a doctorate with an educational leadership specialization. She is the author of several books, including The Return of Jesus Christ, Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia Ragin, Pozercize, and she's going to have to explain that to us, Pozercize from the Inside Out, and over 51 ways to earning online. Adrienne is also an ordained minister who provides coaching, counseling, and mentoring services. And I encourage you to visit her right now. You can check her out online while you're listening to this interview. And her website is thefiercefemale.com, and I love that. And it's spelled the way it sounds, THEFIERCEFEMALE.com. And I'll say it again, THEFIERCEFEMALE.com, thefiercefemale.com. And we are happy to have this go-getter and this visionary with us on Off the Shelf today. Welcome to Off the Shelf, Adrienne.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. It is certainly a privilege to be on Off the Shelf on today.
You are, at some point, if you live long enough, and I'm in my 50s, if you live long enough, you're going to have an experience that not everybody, because I know some people. One of my friends is headed for her 60s, and she's only had one death of somebody real close to her in her family. And I find that absolutely amazing. I've got well over 20, but she's only had one, and she's going at it this year into her 60s. So everybody hasn't had, I would say, but a lot of people have had an experience this far into their journey in this world that you thought you just were not going to recover. I mean, you were literally convinced there is no getting beyond this. And you had one, and you are on the other side of it. And that's just a blessing when you meet people who, especially if they're honest, and this is where we have to be honest. And I think sometimes as Christians we're not honest. We're the way we think we should be, not honest. To tell people, I don't think I can go on. This is it. I'm not going to make it. To let people know when you're in that, how you're feeling. I can't get out of bed. I'm struggling. I'm not going to get over this. And then you keep going and they see you on the other side of it. That's where the blessing, I think, comes from. Even Christ on the cross said, why have you forsaken me? But he got on the other side of it. When you go through it and come out, if you lie about it and say, everything's okay, I'm fine, then people are like, okay, well, so what, big deal. But when you let them know the honesty of the struggle, and then you get on the other side of it, I think that's where it blesses people. But it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us on Off the Shelf, Adrienne. Now, the first few questions I'm going to ask you, I ask every guest because I like to give people a little backstory on our guests before I start talking about their books and the different services that they might offer. So to begin, can you tell Off the Shelf listeners where you grew up, Adrienne, and what life was like for you growing up?
Well, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. I grew up on the west side. If anyone knows anything about Chicago and the west side and the south side rivalry, west side, we say west side is the best side. And I grew up in the community west side known as K-Town, little rough area. And I grew up with different individuals. We close-knit friends, and we didn't have everything that we wanted, but we had what we needed. And that's the important thing. We had what we needed.
Okay. So, and how many, are you one of many kids, or?
Well, I have two brothers. I have one older brother and one younger brother.
Okay. Oh, you're the only
girl
daughter in the family. Okay, so you probably learned how to take care of yourself early on. What did you dream of becoming? I bet you did. The only girl, people always think you'd be pampered, but sometimes you got to learn to fend for yourself coming out the gate.
You know what? I wasn't, it's interesting that you say that. I really wasn't pampered. Well, my older brother protected me. My brother, we grew up in a single-family home. My father was not present in the home. So my older brother was kind of like the dad of the household. He was sort of like the discipline. He was always disciplining me for some reason. And my younger brother and I, we were the troublemakers. Me and my younger brother was just like thick as thieves. We always got into things, looked to get into something, always not mischievous things as far as breaking the law. We just always, let's find something to do. Let's find something to get into. And so we were kind of like the pranksters in the house, always pulling jokes. And we grew up just pranking on one another, just kind of hanging out, just rolling, just having fun. We just had a great time growing up. And my young brother, he's still my best friend. He's my buddy. He's my ride or die guy. My young brother is. So, and he is. And so, and we do be at odds. We grew up sometimes. He's an Aries. I'm a Libra. So he has that personality. He knows how to pull my strings. And so we get into our little bigger matches. They're really not bickering, but we like to play the doves on one another, and he'll always say something to try to, egg me on, and I'll go back at him, and we'll kind of go back and forth. It's just all in fun.
Okay. What did you dream of becoming when you were a child, Adrienne?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because when I was a child, I remember sitting at the table and I wrote on a piece of paper. There was 3 things I wrote on the paper. And it may not seem like much. I wrote down I wanted to be a beautician, I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be an actress. And I'm here to tell you, once I graduated from high school, I went on to a cosmetology school, got my license to become a cosmetologist, and I did get my degree, and I love teaching and educating. But the actress, I didn't become an actress, so let me tell you something. My auntie kind of stifled me, and I told her, I said, I want to be an actress, and she said, you can't do that. That's too hard. It's too challenging. As a child, she told me that, and I dropped it. I dropped that dream. But lo and behold, that dream is still inside of me, because I am such a performer. To me, I just love to perform. And the strange thing about it, in high school, my teacher told me in drama class, when I got up on the stage and I started to perform, we had to just get up there and do something. So I got up on the stage and I went through my little pantomime. After class, she let everybody go, and she says, Adrienne, I need to talk to you. I says, okay. And she says, you need to go to Goodman Theater School of Acting. She says, because you have it. She says, she says, you got it. And she said, you just naturally, you're an actor, you're an actress, you're a performer. And she says, you need to do it. And I was always told that from professors, from writing different manuscripts, and I would turn it in, and my professors would always come back and being so much awe. And I'm like, what are you in awe? This is just so easy to me. I just love to sit down and write. And my professors would say, how do you do that? How in the world do you come up with these stories? And they would always tell me to take my gift further, because it can go somewhere. They were always encouraging me to go somewhere with my gift.
Wow. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
I got just curious before we go into, and then how you became, specifically, your teacher encouraged you in your acting, how you became a writer. But how were you? I'm just curious. I'm fascinated that you did that. How were you when you made that list of, I want to be an actress, I want to be a teacher, I want to be, you did cosmetology. How were you when you sat down and made that list?
I was about 9 or 10 years old.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
It's just so children know it was just annoying, and it sounds kind of unusual that a child would sit down. And I still remember very vividly sitting down at this little table in our front room. We didn't have like a dining room table. It was like a card table that my mother made dining room table out. We had like a little folding card table. And I sat down at the table and I had my little pencil, and I put 1, 2, 3, and I made the little list. I said, I want to be
wow. I just find it amazing.
teacher.
I like to listen to what all of our guests say. Most of them don't. Most of them as adults are not doing anything near what they wanted to do as a kid. And you did say something. That's something else I want to. Again, it goes back to the quote, and I didn't tie the quote into the interview. It's just to our listeners. It's just something that happened. Don't live your fears. Live out your dreams. But how many guests we've had on who stopped doing something they really wanted to do because somebody told them you can't do that, and they listened. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. I just find that amazing. So I encourage people not to do that. And don't tell kids what they can and can't do because you don't know. They're still growing and developing. You don't know what they can do. Who burst in you, or what experience did you have that made you say, I want to be a writer?
Well, with writing, what happened, as a young adult, when I was working downtown Chicago, and I wrote my first article, which I didn't know was going to be an article at the time. I went on lunch, and I was sitting down in the park, and I was just looking all around, and I just started to write this article about how education is the pathway to success. And for some reason, I dropped it in the mail to Chicago Sun-Times. And the Chicago Sun-Times, they called me like the next week. And they said, Adrienne, this is a fascinating article, and we want to give you a headline. And they printed the story.
Wow.
They printed the story, and, that kicked it off. And when I was in college, I wrote a story about how I met my real father, my biological father. And for some reason, I did again. I just dropped the story into the box. It was a competition for all of the classes in the second year. It was like 500 of us. Lo and behold, they called me and they pulled my name. And they says, you know what? Your story won the competition. And so I got an award for writing that story. And it just kept going. I just kept going.
You have an amazing story, and we're just scratching the surface of your story. Can you tell us, if it's something that you say you don't want to talk about it now, that's fine. Just let me know. But where were you when you had a ruptured brain aneurysm? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. But where were you when you had it? Were you at home, at work, and did you, is that, excuse my ignorance, but is that like a stroke or?
It is. I had a blood vessel burst in my brain.
Ooh.
And I was at home, and believe it or not, some people may or may not believe in premonitions or what have you. But that's the only thing that really saved my life, and that's the only reason why I'm here talking to you, because before it happened, my friend and I were sitting in my bedroom watching TV, and out of nowhere, I saw this 911, just like a handwriting on the wall. And I'm like, what in the world? And I told him, I said, we need to call 911. He said, girl, you crazy for what? I said, no, we need to call 911. So we jumped up. He got the phone. He called 911, and they were like, what's your emergency? He said, I don't know. My girlfriend's sitting here talking about calling 911. And he was like, the 911 operator's asking, what's the problem? And I looked at him, and he looked back at me, and I started, for some reason, pointing at my head. And he told the operator, there's something wrong with her head. As soon as he said those words, something is wrong with her head, boom, I passed out, legs went out, I lost all control of my body. Bam, hit the floor.
Wow.
But my eyeballs were open, and I could still hear. My eyes were, I was looking around the room, and I could hear him saying, "She's on the floor." Next thing you know, the fire department, everybody's coming through the front door.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is it. So, and I don't know why I'm coughing, but when you look back on that, okay, so something gave you the insight to know it was coming. Do you ever look back and wonder, and maybe that's what helps trauma to make sense, or you help make it easier? It's certainly not easy, but do you ever look back and wonder, okay, so why did I even go through that at all? Why does anybody go through it? Do you ever get an answer? Did you ever ask, why did that happen, not only to you but to anybody? And what did the answer make the experience make more sense?
Well, you know what? It never really makes sense. The only thing that I can say is that the surgeons, they helped me because they let me know that I was a miracle, a walking miracle, because they couldn't understand how I survived that much blood in my brain. And to make a long story short, that experience changed my personality. And the only thing I can grasp from it is that it changed me, who I am. I went from being a person that was totally introverted to being an extrovert. And so it's just like I said, well, maybe I went through it because God wanted to change my personality. Maybe he wanted to create a whole new me. And so that's what happened. You know, I became this whole different person. And so that's what I take from it.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. You know, our brain controls. See, I read this book, and then I also majored in psychology, but our brain controls more than what we think. And a lot of times, as I've gotten older, I've accepted, a lot of times what I thought used to be God might have just been another part of my brain. And it's just almost amazing, like you said, it changed your personality because something in your brain changed. Now, several years ago, I read a book. I think it was titled My Stroke of Insight. And it was about this neurosurgeon who had a stroke. And she had just exercised. I think she was in the shower. And she knew something was happening to her. Because she said everything was slowing down. And she was home alone like you were. Well, no, somebody was with you. She was home alone. And she said she knew she had to take action very quickly. Everything was slow. And she was able to pick up the phone. And I think she called her work and maybe 911. And she said the recovery took long, but she said a part of her brain that our minds that critiques things, her dress is too long. That tie is too dark. It's too hot. It's too cold. That part of her brain shut down, and all she was able to do was appreciate. That blew me away when I read that in her book. That's all she was able to do. Her brain had that critical part of the brain shut down, and she said it went on for like months. She could do nothing but appreciate. That's all she could do. So how did you? And she said that helped her. We put religion behind a lot of it. We don't realize that a lot of what's going on is something with the brain. But she said that encouraged her as the recovery took a long time. She didn't want to let it go, but eventually she said that critical part of the brain got stronger and she started becoming critical again. It mixed in with the appreciation. That helped her stay encouraged. How did you stay encouraged as you healed?
Well, what helped me to stay encouraged, I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of journal. I started my prayer journal, and I would just write things down. I would read different scriptures because during my recovery, the hardest part for me was when I left rehab, was when they told me I couldn't go back to my apartment. That was the hardest thing. That was when the truth really hit. that I have really went through a major health crisis when they told me you can't go back home. You have to have someone to take care of you. I had to go back to my mother. I had to go to my mother's house. My mother had to take care of me because I couldn't cook for myself. I couldn't do anything. I had to relearn everything. I couldn't use the computer because I didn't even know what the computer was. I didn't know what to do with it. And that's when reality really just set in. But what helped me was journaling. I started to write in a journal, read a scripture every day, and just journal. And I rested a lot because all I could do was just sit there and rest. I did a lot of meditation on different scriptures, positive affirmations. I did that as well.
And before we go into talking about more about your book, I want to get to the Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia Ragin. But how long was that process for you? Again, that other lady said it took her about 7 years. How long was that recovery process?
Believe it or not, I'm still recovering.
Okay.
Because, I'm still recovering. Some things aren't, and the doctors told me that you may recover fully after 5 years, after 7, 8 years. I'm recovered, but I'm still not to the point where I used to drive myself around everywhere. I'm still not driving, and that's another very difficult thing because I am used to jumping in the car and driving and taking off and going where I want to go.
Yeah.
And so to have to call a Lyft ride to take me somewhere, it's just like, this is just really too much. But I just, keep going because that's what I have to do. It's just part of life, and I just, keep going.
What did this teach you? And again, I'm asking you questions, and I thank you for what you're sharing. I really, really do. For listeners, just like some told you to call 911, somebody might just even accidentally click over to off the shelf either today or it could be a year or so before they're getting ready to go through something difficult. It might not be an aneurysm. Could be the loss of a loved one or something difficult, and they catch what you say, and it helps get them through it. We don't know how things work together, but I wanted to ask you, the long recovery, which you're still on that road, what has it taught you, Adrienne, about the power of patience, self-love, and trust?
The power of self-love and trust. You know what? It has taught me to trust the process. It has taught me to appreciate everything around me, even the small things. People just really don't realize how thankful they should be for every little thing. And for self-love, I just love that I'm here. I love every single day because I could not very well be here. And so I'm learning to love myself even more day by day. And it's still a continual process. I think that we're always growing. I think that we're always discovering things about ourselves. I think we're always learning about ourselves because I think we can always learn new things, challenge ourselves, and I'm always challenging myself to learn something new. You would really be surprised what you can do if you challenge yourself to learn something new.
Okay. How are you incorporating what you've learned from your experience into your counseling, mentoring, and the coaching work, which I want to talk about later in the show because I want to next talk about your books. But how do you incorporate what you've learned from your personal experience? You know it works because it worked for you. How are you incorporating those lessons into your counseling, mentoring, and coaching services?
You know what? I usually talk to individuals and talk to clients and use my past experience, and I do it by example. I don't. I just kind of guide individuals and kind of give them maybe a nudge, and I guide them. I let them make their own choice, and I'll just say, for example, and I'll use something from my past, and I'll just say, for example, and create what I may have went through and make it as an example for them so that they can clearly see, so they can have more clarity. and whatever that situation that they may be going through, letting them know that you could get from point A to point B, and I'll give them an example, or give them a positive affirmation, or give them some type of inspiration or some type of motivational tool to use to help them to cross that bridge from not being sure if they can do it to crossing over to knowing that they can do it.
You are oh my God, what a powerful coach or mentor you must be, because you've gone through it. Can you please share, and then next we're going to get into your book, but can you share 3 things that each of us can do, Adrienne, to step into newness in 2018? Are already in February. Our lives are so repetitive, and it could be our fear of change. But what are 3 things that can shake us up and help us step into newness this year?
You know what? 3 things that can maybe shake us up. I always like to say, well, one thing I like to tell people, and I like to do something that you've never done before. Do something on your list that you want to do. And the third thing, which is going to really maybe sound unusual, do something that reconnects you with your inner child and who you were when you were growing up. Because when you reconnect with your child, it kind of keeps you in a. It really works when you reconnect with that inner child within you. It really does something, and it really pulls you up to a level of power within yourself. It pulls you up to a level of self-love. It really pulls you up to being more humble. It really helps you with your faith, because you have that childlike faith. Children have a faith that surpasses sometimes even what adults don't have. Children have a certain amount of faith that is just like mind-blowing if you really study childhood faith. And so if you reconnect with the child within you, you will unlock something that you didn't know was inside of you. You really will. And, I mean, that's a powerful tool. If you just do that one thing, reconnect with your child.
Interesting. It's amazing what we learn as we go along. Now, can you please give our off-the-shelf listeners who've just been sitting impatiently waiting, enjoying what you share, but can you give us a brief overview of Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia Ragin?
You know what's so interesting? That book went through so many transformations. And the title, Journal of Memoir, is really not what people think it is. It's really a dark, twisted fiction story. And it's really my story fictionalized. And it's really a journey of an individual that goes through these different relationships, and she's just spiraling through life, through all these relationships. She goes through therapy, and it's all about, and Zenobia Ragin, that's just a pen name that I used when I wrote that particular book. Yeah, I just used that particular name. And it's really about an individual, the main character, McBride, and she goes through all these different relationships, and she takes the reader through all these crazy relationships. And a lot of those relationships are my relationships that I went through with different individuals, and I just, fictionalized the characters and just talked about some things that I went through as I was growing up. And so if you love reading dark, twisted fiction, you will love that book. If you enjoy reading dark, twisted fiction.
Is it dark, twisted, so you put it down and you're like, okay, I'm going to jump out the window? Or is it like is not a little bit of Stephen King-ish? What is when you say dark, twist?
It is a little Stephen King-ish, because when it opens up and it talks about some of the characters, and I describe the characters kind of sound like Beelzebub, because I'm describing what they look like. It sounds like something out of the year 2070, and it's just like characters. You really have to, it gives you a vivid picture of what's going on. And my editor told me, this is a wild ride. That's what the editors were saying as she was editing the book. And she was reading. She said, this is really wild. And so, the characters, some of the characters are, of course, make-believe from the year 2070, and I use like Beelzebub from the Bible, and I'm describing the different diamonds in their head and the sword and the sash across their chest, and it's just really I'm describing what anger looks like. I'm calling Beelzebub. It's really anger. It's really emotions, and so I take an emotion like anger or fear, and I create this character, and I describe the character and what it looks like, because anger and fear are dark feelings, and so I make the character look really strange and weird. That's why I call it dark and twisted.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting what you said, and I'm going to ask you next what inspired you to write Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia Ragin. But before you answer that question, it made me think when I was listening to you J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series. After her mother died, and I don't know if it was immediately or to when she became an adult, because if we don't deal with things, they're going to come back on us and haunt us. Could come back years later and jump on us. But she said she just went through a really bad depression, and she said she felt like the depression characters, maybe like what you said, emotions, like they were monsters. And she said that's where the characters in Harry Potter came from. Her experience through depression, she said that's where that came from. So it's interesting when you just said what you said. I was thinking, wow, I heard that story similar to where you, and that's the gift of writing. You can write through what you're experiencing to help express it and let it go. But so what inspired you to write this? Had you thought about writing this story? You talked about different relationships and emotions, which we all feel. Had you thought about writing it before the aneurysm, or was this something that happened afterwards? What inspired you to sit down and write this novel?
What happened, believe it or not, it was an assignment in undergrad, and I started writing in undergrad school. And it started out, it was called Moxie, because this young lady had a lot of moxie. And I turned it in as one of my assignments, and the professor was telling me, you need to keep writing this. It was just like a simple essay. And so it kept growing, and I kept going with it, and it just turned into my life story, a fiction. And so I just kept writing, and I would go to the library, because at that time I didn't even have a computer. I would go to the library and just be typing out the story, and somebody next to me would be reading like, wow, oh my God, and so I just kept going with it, and I was submitted to different publishing houses, and they would send it back to me, and they would say, oh, it's not our genre, we love this story. You know how you get those letters. And so I got a lot of rejection letters from that story. But it was funny because each rejection letter, they encouraged me to keep going. And I got encouraged from even the letters of rejection because they loved the story. It just didn't fit with what they were publishing, what they were putting out at that time.
Yes, it's got to be on time.
Yeah, and I also think that it's interesting that you mentioned the Harry Potter, how she used those the monsters, because in my story, that's what those creatures look like. They're like little monsters. The fear and the anger, they look like little monsters in the story.
She said that's what she did. So that's one of the gifts of writing. What do you hope, Adrienne, that readers gain from Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia? I love that name. What did you come up with? You said that should be your pen name, but what did you come up with that name? Zenobia Ragin.
You know what is so interesting that you asked that question, because my best friend, her mother's name is Zenobia, and I always did love that name. I got it. I did was I took my best friend's mother's first name, and I took my best friend's last name, and I put it together. So I put Zenobia Ragin, and that's the way I came up with that name.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And what do you hope readers gain from reading The Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia Ragin?
Well, I hope that they're able to connect with the character and know that whatever you go through, you can get through it. Because in the end of the story, I don't want to tell the end of the story, but I hope that they're able to gain self-love, trust in their inner self, their gut feeling, because your gut feeling is always on target and right, and you should always follow what your instincts are telling you, that first instinct. And I hope that they're able to gain strength from watching the main character go through all those different spirals in her life.
Okay. And those are good takeaways from a novel. Now, as we go into another one of your books, can you tell us what does Pozercize mean? I never even heard of that.
It's Pozercize.
Oh, Pozercize.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is that? Okay, what's Pozercize mean?
You know what? Pozercize actually is positive thinking and action. It's really two things put together. It's positive, P-O-Z, and then the last part, like you exercise. So what you're really doing is exercising positive thinking. That's what Pozercize is.
Exercising positive thinking. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to go back and ask you this before we go on to some other questions, because this is something I promised our listeners. You gave us 3. Can you share 2 other actions talking about Pozercize? What are two other actions that we can take to become new in 2018? Exercising positive. What are 2 other things we can do to step into newness this year?
2 other things we can do to step into newness?
In 2018.
In 2018.
It might tie back to your Pozercize. Did I say it right?
I like. Yes, Pozercize. That's correct. So I would say 2 other things that you can do to step into your newness. I think that one thing that one person that we can all do, at least once a month, do something outside of your norm. For instance, we all get into this everyday habit of doing things. What we always, even me, we do our daily thing. I think maybe once a month, do something you would normally do, even if it's spend a night at a hotel, even if it's going to the zoo. Because you don't just think of doing that once a month. You wouldn't just jump up and say, well, I'm going to the zoo, I'm going to the planetarium, I'm going to go and, take a look at the aquarium or a museum. Do something that you just wouldn't normally do.
Okay.
Because to me, when you do something outside of the norm, it's going to give you another layer. To me, it does. And I do that sometimes. Like in the summer months, I'll maybe go to a carnival, I'll go to a rodeo, or just do whatever, and it makes me feel really great. It makes me feel good. Second thing I would do to step into your newness, and this may sound really simple, if you're not writing down something that you're grateful for, just write down what you're grateful for in that particular day.
I might do both of those.
Okay.
Yeah, you reached one. I might do both of those. Thank you for sharing those. Now, we've heard about positive affirmations, Adrienne. Some people have tried these things on the seminars, and some of these seminars are not cheap. And they've done all the workshops. They've read the self-help books. They've done this, done the goal setting. What makes positive affirmations? Because just saying something alone is not going to change behavior, I don't think. But what makes it an effective tool? We have to do other things, of course. But what makes it effective at helping to change behavior? Why are positive affirmations? Why are they an effective tool when used with other things to help change behavior?
Why is it effective?
Just you're just saying something positive. What? Why does it even? Why? Like it's like why do it? Why say it? What? Why is it? Why is it something useful?
You know what? When you were asking that question, what really popped up in my mind was I got into a conversation with an individual, a friend of mine, on Facebook, because that's how that book was born, was on Facebook. I was dropping positive quotes on Facebook. Every day I would say something positive. And it started to get attention. And one of my friends got into this long conversation with me, and he was saying exactly what you're asking. He was like, well, sometimes you just don't want to think positive. Well, how do you change your way, and this is not going to work? And we got into this debate. And so positive thinking is not going to change you just like that. It takes practice. It has to be intentional. It's not something that you're just going to do overnight. You have to make an effort to be intentional in your thinking, to change your thinking. You know, that may sound a little weird, but you have to be intentional in your thinking to change your thinking. It's kind of deep, but yeah.
So it goes and positive affirmation. We were talking about the brain earlier. It may trigger a part of the brain, like that woman who had a stroke, where the appreciation part, it might trigger that more than the critical part, and you might get more positive ideals and concepts. But at some point, you have to take action. We live in an action world, so just thinking positive, and because I've heard people just praying and waiting. At some point, you got to make a move. You got to bust a move at some point. So it's just one of the tools. How can someone stay positive, though, Adrienne? And after what you've gone through, I think you have the experience to say this. So somebody's going through, how can they keep a positive outlook when unwanted experiences, a job layoff, sickness?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's interesting that you were asking that question. I was thinking of something when you were asking that question. You have to consistently feed yourself. And that's what I do. You have to feed yourself positive reading. You have to read positive things. You have to read something that's going to inspire you. I always try to watch something that's inspiring. For instance, like there's this football player. I don't know if anyone ever know about the story, the football player that has one hand. I can't think of his name right. Yeah, I can't think of his name. He's in college, and he plays football. He only has one hand. He got turned down because they told him he couldn't play football with just one hand. He lost his hand. But I'm here to tell you he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I can't think of his name. But anyway, you have to feed yourself inspirational things. You have to watch inspirational programming, find something else to read when you're going through a situation. And if it's financial, like you said, a job layoff, you have to sometimes create something for yourself. You have to get outside of the box. You may have to do something outside of the norm to create a stream of income for yourself. If you have lost a job, I became really good at that because when I went through what I went through, I didn't have the income for a long time because I couldn't work. And I'm telling you, I became this pro at getting on the Internet and finding stuff to do to make money. That's how I came up with 51 ways to make money online. I started writing articles and earning money through Google, the AdSense, and that takes time. But there's a lot of stuff online that you can do to make money, believe it or not. That's for real. I know it's a lot of junk online, but there are some real things online that you can do to make money. And so especially with writing.
My goodness, there is nothing called quitting you. Even if you get tempted to quit, something you're going to make sure it's going to keep you going. Oh, my God, you almost launched into my next question. You can tell it. It's in you. Can you share 3 to 5? Can you share 3 to 5 specific ways, being what you went through? I mean, look. A lot of people have what you had happen to you, or a stroke or something, and they'll go move in with a parent, and then that's it. They're going to spend their life just saying, why me, which is so hard not to do it. It really is. But, man, you just like a get up and let's make it happen. Can you share 3 to 5 specific ways, Adrienne, that people can earn legitimate money online?
I can. 3 to 5 legitimate ways. I got a whole list. I got to go over. You know what I'm going to tell you? Those that are listening, what they can do is email me at thefiercefemales@gmail.com, and I will share more than 3 to 5 ways that they can earn money online. You know what? And I love hub pages. If you like to write, go to hub pages and join hub pages. If you really need money quickly, online, it does take a little bit of time. You do have to be patient. So if you do something online and you need money like right now, you know, you're not going to make money like overnight online. That's just, I know people are selling a lot of pie in the sky things as far as making money online. This is just not true. It's just not going to happen because you do have to be patient with making money online. But there are some bona fide ways online. And I love Live Ops. They've changed their name, but you can make some serious money around Super Bowl time in some of these call centers. And that's what I did. And there's a lot of call centers online where you can make some serious money and make a real paycheck. So if you can hold out for like 30 days, you can join a lot of places online to make that paycheck. And Pizza Hut, there are some big companies like Pizza Hut. You know those infomercials where they sell like the blender, the Ninja blender, what is it?
Yes,
all these things you see in the store. I did all that stuff. And Lyft, the Lyft ride, those places are online where you can answer their phones. I'm telling you, I made some good money with Lyft when I, you know what? Because they're paying you by the minute. They pay you like 25 cents a minute. Then you get a bonus on top of that. And Pizza Hut pays you. I know they're going to kill me for telling all of them, but. I don't know if I hope my contract don't get canceled. But anyway, Pizza Hut will pay you 20 cents. No, it went up. It's 30 cents a minute. And then during Super Bowl time, if you sell like little brownies, little extras, you give like an extra 10 cents. And that money adds up. I made like $1,000 one time. In 7 days, $1,000. It may not sound like much to some people, but if you don't have anything to do,
oh my goodness, yes, that's somebody's rent. Are you kidding?
I'm gonna tell you, I couldn't do anything but talk on the phone, and I was sitting home on my bed with my legs crossed. Do you hear me? I would sit on my bed with my legs crossed, saying the same thing over and over for Lyft, and that was so much fun. I would just sit there with my legs crossed. Those phone lines was jumping so fast, and I would just say, "Thank you for using Lyft. Thank you for using Lyft. Thank you for using." I made $1,000 just by saying, "Thank you for using Lyft." Do you hear me?
Wow.
Do you hear what I'm saying? Because those minutes add up.
You know, I got to tell you something.
So serious.
I remember when I got laid off from Merrill Lynch, and I work for another employer now in addition to writing, but I came up with a lot of ideas to do blogging, and I did make, but a lot of what you're doing never even crossed my mind. It's amazing how, and maybe that's part of the Pozercize, as you stay positive, again, like that lady I was talking about had a stroke, she went into that appreciation, part of her brain just was taken over. Maybe that's where those ideals come from. And then if you go down in the negativity, you close the door on that. So that's another reason to stay positive and write down something that you're grateful for or appreciate every day to keep that window or that door open so those good ideals do come through. Wow, I mean, your story is something. Your story is something. Can you tell?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I wanted to give people another juicy nugget. Did you know that, stations like PBS and Channel 11, stations like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you heard of PBS, where they have the telethons.
Yes.
Do you know do you know there's a company out here that will pay you to answer you at home? They pay you to answer those phone lines. This is 24/7 work. it's not seasonal. Those telethons are not seasonal because we're talking about all 50 states. I mean, I've answered those calls for people from Denver, Colorado to Niagara Falls. I mean, all across the U.S. You know, you're talking about public programming to answer those phones, and they're paying you like 35 cents a minute just to pick up a phone and take a donation. I mean, that money adds up, and you get bonuses on top of that. I mean, it's real money. It's real money. It's a real job, and it's real money.
Wow, that is interesting. And again, that's something that for people, your mind is just something in you is really, really, really looking out for you. That you come up with to even know to look for that. When and why? We only have 5 minutes left. I had a lot more questions to ask you, but we're not going to get to them all. When and why, though? I want to talk about Fierce Female. When and why did you launch Fierce Female?
You know what? I first launched it because in my family there's so much struggles and that we went through with watching individuals go through with dementia and Alzheimer's. And we had my uncle and my aunt, my father, passed away with Alzheimer's. That's when I first started out. It was a caregiving. I was trying to do something for caregiving, but it didn't really take off for some reason. And then I did a rebranding. I really got into my authentic self, and I did a rebranding of the Fierce Female Network because I love to help people. I just love to help people be successful. And that has just taken off without a hitch. And so what I'm doing is just helping people create their commercials, helping them with their press releases. If you have a small business, I just love to help see people be successful. And that's where Fierce Female Network came into play. And I just help individuals. I do the interviews, on the radio show. I help them to get on CBS, help them get on Fox, help them get interviewed on a blog, on a magazine, We Magazine. And there's just a list of media outlets that I have, and I help individuals to reach those sources.
Go ahead. Go get it. So do you work with people who are in, as far as your services, is there a certain stage in the process where you start working with people? Do you specialize with startups or people midstream in the process? What is your audience or your customer base that you specialize?
My target audience, I do work with people who do already have their business, and maybe they're trying to grow their business and get to the next plateau. But also, I do work with beginners. I had a lovely artist, very talented artist that I was working with to get him art shows and things of that nature because he's so talented. I do help him, too. I was booking art shows for him. So if you are an artist and you love to draw and you have a drawing, I love booking those art shows, and that's something that I do as well. So you don't necessarily have to have your own company or a small business. You can be an individual, and you're selling your service as far as your artwork. I work with those individuals as well because a lot of things people don't think about is making their own commercial and having it in their pocket. So when they go to an interview, you can pull out your commercial and say, hey, play this. During my interview, play this. You're ready. You come loaded. You got to come loaded.
Adrienne, where can off-the-shelf listeners get copies of your books?
Yes, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. Everything is listed on Amazon. And my website, fiercefemale.com. All the books are listed on my website. I have a children's book, Mommy and Me, which is a short bedtime story, which is great. And those short bedtime stories are just some stories from my childhood, me and my little brothers, things we did growing up. And so it's a really nice little bedtime stories. And so they can go to Amazon.com, but fiercefemale.com as well because it is on my website.
Do you have any upcoming speaking engagements? If so, can you tell us about a few?
You know what? If individuals
want to come out and support you?
Yes, if individuals are in the Atlanta area, I am planning an event in April. I'm having a workshop, Crush Your Writer's Block. And I really want to work with first-time authors who are having a problem publishing that first book. I want to get them out the door because people didn't have this when I wrote my first book. You got to have your marketing plan to be successful. You got to know what you're going to do with that book before you finish. Don't wait till you finish writing a book. You got to know hands-on before you get that book finished. And so April 7th, we're having Crush Your Writer's Block. I'm going to give them a marketing plan. We're going to put together their media plan so that they can reach the media, so they can get those interviews on news outlets, so they can be interviewed on magazines online and offline. So they have to have that in place before their book is finished being written.
Yes, yeah. Can you tell us where we can find you on social media?
Oh, absolutely. The Fierce Female on Facebook. Please do follow me on Facebook, The Fierce Female on Facebook and on Instagram. If you go to Instagram, it's the same handle, The Fierce Female. And you'll also see different individuals who is on the Fierce Female Network and the different individuals. And I'm so happy to have some of those individuals. I'm just so humbled and honored to have some of those individuals. Some are very seasoned in their craft, in their art, in their music. And so you can go to Twitter, The Fierce Female, and I also have a Twitter account if you want to follow me under Pozercize, Pozercize.
You are something. Oh, my goodness, what a blessing. I'm so glad Adrienne and I were supposed to interview in December, but my son passed away on December 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm still going through that. Yeah, and I remember I told you, and you said, I said, can we reschedule? And you said, that's fine. So we were supposed to have gotten together, I think it was December 9th, and then it got pushed to February. But you have blessed my spirit, and I'm sure you have so many other people. And it's an odd thing if you hadn't gone through your great struggle. Your voice might not come with as much clarity as it now has. So, but we want to thank you all for, again, Adrienne Manson, and encourage you to support her. Give us the name of your children's book again, please. Mommy and Me?
The children's book is Mommy and Me, that's it.
Mommy and Me, The Return of Jesus Christ, Journal of a Memoir by Zenobia Ragin, Pozercize, I hope I did it, From the Inside Out, and 51 Easy Ways to Earning Online. Oh, my God, you got to get those books. And that earning online, I don't know how her mind came up with those ideas, but something in her is looking out for her. So we want to thank Adrienne Manson. And then in April, send me the info on your Atlanta. You've got my email address. Just email or Facebook me the Atlanta event so I can help spread the word. So the April event in Atlanta, for those who want to just write that first book so you don't get taken advantage of, because a lot of people are here taking advantage of writers. You don't throw money away needlessly. So I want to thank Adrienne for that. And look for that for those of you who are in on their Atlanta in April for information. You can follow her on Facebook. She's on Instagram. She's on Twitter, and you can keep up with that April event in Atlanta that's coming soon. So I want to thank our listeners. As I always tell you, remember, you're awesome. You're amazing. You are incredible. Go out and create a fabulous day for yourself, whether it's raining, snowing, or sun shining. You got it in you to create a fabulous day for yourself. Thank you so much, Adrienne. What a blessing you are. I'll shoot you an email. Bye for now.
Thank you.